Anyway, so thank you for joining us for this last day of Women's History Month. And on the screen, you will see Katie Schatz, who happens to be our federal women's, whoops, what did I do, Katie?
I don't think you did anything bad.
Oh, okay.
You did just start recording, so you might have gotten your little blue box, but
okay.
I think you're okay.
So yeah, Katie is the Federal Women's Program Manager at Salt Lake City, VA, who has helped coordinate so many different things this month for Women's History Month. And we wanted to end it with our speaker today, Bluesette Ossana, who's somebody I interviewed last year for a different project, but it involved addiction and recovery. And her story was just so moving. We wanted to invite her back to close out our events this month. And because of COVID restrictions and social distancing, I'm going to move out of the screen, put her center so she can remove her mask and share her story. So welcome, Blue.
Thank you.
Let's hear what you have to say.
Hi, and good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. So I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have had so many things in my life that could define me, and I rose above it. And I want everyone to know that recovery is possible, no matter how old you are or how much you've gone through. You can survive, live, and thrive. So I'm from a small town in Utah, and my parents were married until I was about 2 years old, and my father had an affair with his secretary, and my mom and dad divorced. And I had a difficult childhood, but I had a mother who loved me very much. And I have experienced so many different things growing up. I grew up in a drive-in at movie theater, and in Moab, we did the best we could. My mom got married again when I was 5 to a personal friend that my father and mother had played bridge with, golfed with. So it was kind of like the Brady Bunch. So my sister and I were joined with 3 other siblings. Meanwhile, my father continued having child after child. And at some point, my dad went from being a top of the line insurance salesman to being a top of the line drug dealer. And that's when secrets and a lot of difficult things happened. When I was 14 years old, it was the first time that I ever brought drugs back from another state. I flew with my younger siblings. My youngest sibling was 18 months old. And it's the first time that I ever experienced a panic attack. I had a 2-hour layover in Denver airport, and it's the first time that I'd really seen homeless people. And I thought that I was going to die right there in that moment. I was so scared. If you've ever seen Blow, which is a movie about a prominent drug dealer, although it wasn't such large scale, just add about 6 children to that. And that is my experience. I have survived being molested as a child by 7 different individuals. My mother is a school teacher, and I actually made it against all odds and graduated from high school. I had things that spurred me along. Music was something that really touched me, and it kept me focused. I was Bloody Mary in South Pacific. I was Anita Shin in The Music Man. Those things are the things that I remember with such joy. But I struggled with mental health issues, and I went to college at the University of Utah right after I got out of high school, and I ended up getting pregnant. And part of my story is my daughter. The struggles that I had, it was difficult. I had to tell my mother, who felt like I couldn't have a child at that time, and she wanted me to have an abortion And I understand why now. Back then, I couldn't understand why. My father tried to take me to Boulder, Colorado, where you can have an abortion if you just pay $5,000. I remember, when he was telling me this, how I tried to get out of the car, and that didn't work. So he talked to his attorney friends and got a couple to adopt my child. So I went through my pregnancy, not really being able to celebrate being pregnant or having that experience. It was really, really difficult. I went into labor earlier than expected, and it ended up just my mother and I in the labor and delivery room. And she looked at me and she said, well, it looks like we have a baby. And my mother went out and she bought everything that you needed for a baby in one day. And my life as a mother began. I think that the most difficult part was thinking that I had to live up to be this person that my dad had instilled in me. Excuse me. Being a drug dealer on such a large scale. And that's what he thrived. His ego was totally based in that. And I'm a lot like my father in a lot of really good ways and a lot of really bad ways. And I struggled being a single mom with a baby, and drugs were a part of that, unfortunately. I ended up in a relationship with another man, and I was blessed to have my son, and it was toxic. It involved drugs. It was hard, but it's the first time I'd ever felt loved. So I compromised everything about who I was to try to make that happen. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and I ended up having some really horrible experiences. Just trying to survive. When my daughter was getting ready to turn 8 years old, my oldest daughter, Elise, my brother, because at this time, I have 6 brothers and sisters with my father's first marriage. Then there's my sister and myself. And my brother, who is 2 years younger than I am, came to me and told me that he owed Mexicans money for cocaine. And I struggled because he said they were going to break his legs. I struggled to get money for him. And it ended up being a really bad experience where he was not exactly honest with me. And through a series of events, I ended up on the streets of Salt Lake City. And I kind of lost myself because in that process of trying to fix things for my brother, I ended up destroying parts of my life. And I missed my daughter's birthday. And it really broke me inside. I didn't know how to come back from it, so I ran from it. And I ran and I ran until I couldn't run anymore. And part of that experience was being arrested for those behaviors. And here's the thing with when you have a life where you think that nothing else is possible because you're defined by the agreements that you make in your head of who you're going to be. So if you're going to, grow up and think that you're going to be absolutely nothing more than, that's what you're going to create your reality to be. That's who you become. You fulfill those destinies. And I live my life trying to say, like, why can't I stop doing this? Why can't I change? I love my children so much. I love my family so much. All these things that I wanted to change, I didn't think I could. And that's where we paint ourselves into a corner with our thoughts. And that's where, through my process of prison and rational thinking errors, thinking for a change, those are the things that I taught in prison. And sometimes when you teach something, that's what you need to learn the most. And through that process, and 3 different times going to prison, I learned how to look at what I was thinking and doing and changing my trajectory. I wish I would have done it earlier. Sorry, I think I'm nervous, so it's hard for me to breathe.
You're in
But,
good company here, we're all friends.
and so, part of that experience was like really understanding what that means. Have you ever gone through life and go, I have no idea why I did that. Why did I do that? Like our heads aren't attached to our bodies. And the reality of it is that our brains attach importance. Our primal part of our brain attaches importance to those things that make us feel better, whether or not it's good for us, whether or not we feel healthy doing it. Our primal part of our brain says, oh, that works. Do that, do that. So that is where I had to think about, like, so when I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm going to use, or I'm going to be involved in a relationship or talking, being, doing those things that are going to get me in a bad place, it's like a super highway for my brain to go, we need to do that. That's what we need to do. So part of the rational recovery, the thinking errors, was addressing what those triggers were and how to overcome them. So the way I thought about it is like this. I get on a super highway. I'm always on that highway. It's getting the overpass. It's changing those thoughts, those triggers, those things that happen that lead you down the same road with the same consequences. And so through my process of all my experiences, having children, trying to live my life, wanting to be a part of a community, not feeling like that I need to hide who I am or lie about who I am every day, every moment. I got to change that. I had an opportunity to. The last time I was in prison, it was really devastating. A lot of really bad things happened, and I ended up in prison for 3 years. Those 3 years were very formative for me. I decided I can change, and I'm going to. And I was released from prison, and I started my associates in social work. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to be able to do this. All those things, all those self-defining thoughts that we get that keeps us in this little box. I had to break free of those thoughts and rise above it. During this process, a good friend of mine who was in prison with me, she also happens to be a veteran. She got in contact with me, and she was doing really well. And then she ended up in a really bad place. So I'm doing my associates. I started attending groups at USARA, and then a job becomes open at USARA.
And a lot of people may not know what USARA is.
Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness.
Yep.
And so I utilized my experience in prison on my resume, because all of those things that you gather in those experiences, they're not all negative.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that on my resume, and I got the job. I'm a woohooer. I didn't know that growing up, but I'm a firm believer in woohooing. And when I got that job, I woohooed to my mom, to my daughter, to my son, to everybody. And I became a certified peer support specialist for USARA. 4 months into my job, I took over the program. And that was also life-changing. All those things that you think you can never do. Like, I didn't know I was good at statistics. I didn't know I was good at understanding how to make things work. And I did. And not only did I change a whole curriculum and do all of these things with statistics with the Social Research Institute, I coached. And I coached people. And even though I was doing so well, those things still happen. Those thoughts still happen. Staying on top of those things is what keep you in the right way, heading down the right road. And life throws you curveballs. You can be doing the best you could possibly ever be doing, changing all the things that you want to change, but people die, people get sick, the people that we love.
Tragedy can hit anytime.
You lose them.
Yeah.
For me, one of my experiences, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I'm going to. When I was in prison, my second time, I was in prison because I sold drugs so I could put my daughter into treatment because she had addiction issues as well. So smart, but couldn't see past those self-defining thoughts. And during my incarceration, my daughter overdosed and died. And the anniversary of her death was the 27th of March. So that's why I thought skipping around, because I'm trying to share my story, but not be in that sad place. But a part of life is those sad things. So losing her, I didn't think I could survive not being Elise's mom. But I'm the mother of Thomas Dooley and Savannah Humphreys, and they're amazing human beings. And I had to rise above that self-defining thought that I couldn't survive without my oldest daughter. Anyway, so she was 24. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her. She was 24, second state debate, 11th in the country. She loved policy and procedures. She loved writing. She was so smart. She could argue anybody. She could whittle you down. She could win. every kind of like move you thought you'd make, she'd like counter it. And I miss her. And I wish that she could see me today because I never thought it was possible. I'm sure my children never thought it was possible for me to be anything than what I was. You can overcome anything, you know?
And Ossana is interesting because they have multiple approaches, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing there was a Buddhist group, there was 12-step, there was cognitive therapy. Could you explain a little bit of the diversity?
So, like what we get fed in even like movies and different things like that is that, and don't get me wrong, 12-step is very powerful, but it's not something that spoke to me. It's not where I felt at home. And so being exposed to USARA, I went to USARA because I had to do a paperwork for Intro to Social Work, and I had to interview a social worker. And Mary Jo McMillan is the executive director. And I had tried with several other people to get time to like interview this person. And Mary Jo is the one that said, sure, come on over. And I sat down and I talked to her. And it's the first time that I ever really truly felt seen. And that's when I got exposed to USARA. And there's all these different things, coffee and recovery, which is just you meet and you can talk about what's going on in your life, and there's people that will support you and listen to you. And then there's smart recovery, which is specified management and recovery training. And that's where where my head isn't attached to my body. That's where that connected. That's when I was going like, oh, the super highway that I always get on, I can build an overpass. I can divert myself. I can change my direction. And being a part of that, understanding that, it also connected to the REBT, which is rational emotive behavior therapy, and cognitive behavioral therapy. Those things combined with motivational interviewing is smart recovery. And it's what helped me see, because you can go through your life and you can say, oh, I don't know why I did those things, or why I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have said that. SMART gives you this opportunity to take those instances and write them down and understand what your physical feelings are in those moments, what your thoughts are, what your emotions are, and like understanding those and becoming self-aware is what gives you the opportunity to change. You can change your trajectory. You don't always have to get down that super highway, and that's powerful. It's whatever works for you, whatever soothes you, gives you a way to like be connected to yourself, is what helps you change who you are if you live in that box. Being a felon, being a drug addict, saying I'm a drug addict all the time just reinforces that for me, that that's all I can be. But I'm all these other things. I'm pretty funny. I know my kids get sick of me and my videos, but I do Snapchat videos with filters. And I make them laugh. And then I get them to join me. It's the little things.
One thing I was thinking too is PTSD, which is a common problem for veterans and women veterans, adds that layer of self-medication, right?
Absolutely.
And I was thinking a lot of what you deal with in Smart Recovery tackles the conscious and the subconscious. So the subconscious beliefs that drive our conscious behaviors. And that's like, I don't know why I keep doing this.
Right.
Could you explain a little bit better that subconscious conscious dichotomy?
Right. Okay. So I don't know if any of you are know about how the brain works, but there is the primal part of our brain. It's called the amygdala. And that's where those primal fight, flight, freeze, and it's your basic survival. And so, like I said, when you get in a difficult situation, and if you would ever use drugs or alcohol, your brain automatically goes to that. And that's where you go like, oh, I'm on that superhighway. So being aware of that, and so your frontal part of your brain doesn't really talk to your primal part of your brain, right?
Mhm.
It just goes on like it's autopilot. That's what you're doing because it worked. That's how it works. And so being aware and like having your frontal brain and your primal part of your brain talk, like, hey, this doesn't work out for us when we do this. And the primal part of your brain's going like, no, do it. That works. Do it. Do it. That's why it's so hard to overcome those addictive behaviors, is because it's just like a part of our basic psyche, especially if you have trauma when you're a child.
Mhm.
Whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or just traumatic experiences that can define who you are.
It's visceral, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the reaction is not even you. It's like you can't even think your way out of it necessarily. at
Especially
first.
when you're in those moments. And that's why that physical reaction, what is the first thing that happens to me physically when I'm in those moments? I get flushed, my ears get hot, my stomach hurts.
Mhm.
And then that's when I know I'm engaging in that. But being able to slow it down, to be it takes effort. We have to put effort into it. It's not like we, just automatically are born and we go through all these experiences and just go, oh, like that just happened. That just happened. It's like slowing it down.
Yeah.
Like going like, I'm worth it. I'm worth the effort to stop and think, what is it that works for me?
Mhm.
What else can I do that's going to feed and soothe that beast that gets a hold and gets me in the driver's seat to go on that superhighway? And my friend, who's a veteran, my dad was a veteran. He was on We Talk. He was in the armed forces. Um, PTSD. I have so many friends that were in Vietnam. It's can be self-defining, especially when like we didn't choose that, right? You don't choose those, even watching a car wreck, it doesn't matter what it is, because it's what triggers us inside. And being able to address that and feel like a sense of it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
I'm worth it. I'm worthy of being okay. So what is it that soothes you? What is it that feeds your soul? Having that purpose, having community. One of the things that I really enjoyed a lot when I worked at USARA was on Tuesdays we had veterans group. And that's where I got the chance to share parts of my story and also listen, be that active listener.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful for those men and women that give their lives so we can be here.
Yeah.
So we can be here and live in America. I know things are really divided right now. There's a lot of divisiveness, but really we're all Americans, and we just need to remember be kind and compassionate to each other. And that also starts with ourselves, right? I am not just a felon. I am not just a drug dealer or a recovering addict or whatever term you want to give me. I'm Bluesette Ossana. I'm mother of 3 amazing children. I am a grandma, you guys. Oh my gosh. I never thought I could love anybody more than I love my children. But Ava Joy, she fills my heart. I've experienced a lot of things in the last 3 years. A lot of people have died. I got a chance to be there with my father when he passed away. It was just him and I. And instead of that being like something that kills me, I can live in this moment of gratitude because my sister and I were there. I have such an amazing family. I have an amazing sister. I have an amazing mother, and they have stood by me. And that's also important too. Not everybody has a mom and a sister that are fabulous, but there are people that you can connect to. Smart recovery is powerful. Dharma recovery is powerful. It's what feeds your souls.
So for people that may not know Dharma recovery, it's changed its name. I think. Could you explain a little bit?
Well, it was Refuge to Recovery. Now it's Dharma recovery.
Yeah.
So it's Buddhist-based principles that are like a part of a 12-step program. So they've kind of like taken 12-step and they've taken Buddhist-based principles and combined them. Meditation, mindfulness, all of these things are such amazing tools.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that are available to people now. And it's like reaching out is the first step. Whatever it is, if you're scared to do it, lean into it. That's what I say. Lean into the uncomfortable, because that's where you learn the most about who you are and what you're willing to do for yourself, because it begins with you.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. I don't know. I'm writing. I have this idea of a program that I want to start, and I'm 55 years old. My son tells me that I'm going to always be 46. So if he asks me, that's the year I'm going to give. But anything is possible for any one of us. We just have to believe it. And I don't know. I want to leave it open if there's questions that want to be asked.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be here.
And Katie, you can see the screen and people. Yeah, everybody feel free to open up with comments and questions. We welcome it.
And I can tell you there have been several really nice comments in the chat box, including just a really beautiful one from Twyla Wilson, who says that you were the first person that she met in recovery, and that I really urge you to read the comment in full on your own, but essentially she says that you're the reason that she's here today. So I thought that was such a wonderful comment. And also one from Thomas, who says that he's very grateful to be a part of your journey and glad that you're able to share that with so many people. And I'll keep looking as we get more comments. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to pose those to you as they come in.
Thank you also, so much for all the wonderful things. Twyla is amazing. And we keep in contact. She doesn't live in Utah anymore, but we still talk. It doesn't matter. We're connected. I love you, Twyla, and I love my son so much. I know that my sister, my son, and my daughter are here.
That's amazing.
I'm getting sick. Excuse me. I don't have COVID.
She doesn't have COVID, but Katie, I don't know if you know this, she was in a car accident.
Oh yeah.
I did hear that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So we're glad that she can be here.
Me too. I look at the car that I had a wonderful Subaru Outback, and it is no longer with us. It's very sad, but I survived. It's just another thing to overcome, right? 6 weeks of not being able to be on my feet. It's really hard to keep me down. But my son took good care of me, so, and my daughter's amazing. She came up here. She's a warrior. She took me to my surgery. My sister and my daughter were both there. I'm so lucky. I am so lucky.
Well, one question I had this is the last day of Women's History Month. And Katie, thank you for all your help. Katie did some wonderful spotlights too on employees. What does Women's History Month mean to you today?
Well, I don't know. You can't really see it, but this is my,
You don't live there.
I believe in women. I believe that, like, there just needs to be more kindness and compassion. Women treating women better. I think we can just really come together. We had this opportunity, see? We can either like let it just destroy us, or we can come together and listen more and be more than, like, I don't care if somebody voted for Trump. I remember when that was happening, like families were not speaking to each other. That is so ridiculous. When did that happen? I'm just saying, we just need to move ahead.
Find common ground.
Find common ground and just move forward. And that's how we make it through this, because it starts on a personal level. Like when you're in that moment where you just want to get heated about it, like in a year, is it going to matter? That one talking point?
That came up in a previous session too. And Katie is going to mention this too, where people were talking about when you have divisiveness, even at work, right, in environments. And one suggestion was work together on a project that everyone can agree on.
Right.
Put all your divisions aside and focus on, let's solve this one. And you'll find, oh, we can talk.
And have
We
more
can
in common.
communicate. We can get along.
Yeah, have
Yeah.
more in common than you thought.
Yeah.
It's like that. I watched this podcast where I can't remember his name, but he addressed a KKK, and he was a black man. And I really wish I could remember his story was so powerful. For him to just brave that, just go in there and just face that, and just like have an understanding is that they were just men, not black, not white, just men, and learning that they had more in common than not.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. That project thing is, whatever it is, wherever you work. We had office chair races one time. I mean, it's whatever, we have to also remember joy, right?
Yeah.
Joy and happiness, even at the worst. You can't laugh, and it helps make your way through the darkness. And sometimes people just need to be heard. They just need somebody to listen, not fix it, not, give advice, but just be present. And I think that that's really powerful too. I can talk over anybody. It's learning how to slow myself down and just be present. And that way I get more out of it too. I don't know. It's just what I've gained in understanding of myself and being more connected to the people that love me and I love.
And Katie, I don't know if there are any questions or comments. There are comments.
You have been so amazing at, I keep coming up with questions and then you immediately answer those, those questions in your conversation. And I literally was just preparing to ask you how you find joy. There are like so many things in life that can be really difficult. And I just think it's amazing how strong you are. And I really just wonder, like, I have a hard time finding joy sometimes. But then you just immediately answered that question.
Yeah. I mean, it is like my sister and I, we have made a deal where we're going to go watch a comedian. I mean, and I'm going to hold her to that. I think that we forgot that because of everything that happened with COVID, but it's getting back to those things, right? Go on a picnic. I never knew that Snapchat could be so entertaining. I mean, my son and I sang happy birthday to my sister, and I was the son and he did the background, and it was amazing. And I show it to people and people laugh. I have like 1,000, I know that my family gets tired of it, but I done one with my mother. She did, with the filters and everything. She's 88. She loved it. See, it's whatever, that sparkle, whatever it is. That's what you need to lean into, do more of, whatever it is.
One thing I was thinking too, there's this great author, Lucinda Bassett. She wrote the book From Panic to Power. And she talks about when you change behaviors, let's say you've had a lifetime, right, of those neural pathways being set where you react a certain way. She said in her case, it was anxiety and depression that she struggled with for so long, 25 years, and agoraphobia. She's pointed out how when you head to a path of healthy thinking, healthy feeling, it feels unnatural. She says it can even feel morally wrong at first to pursue happiness, pursue wholeness. And I think that was a great advice because when people are trying to move in the right direction and they feel worse at first, that's okay. That's expected. That's part of the journey, right? It's going to feel unnatural to learn to do the right thing.
Right. Survivor's guilt is a big thing. You know, it's like, here's the thing. We all can just be defined by those things. Like, I shouldn't, or I can't, or I won't, or how could I, or why should I? It's like, because you're worth it. You have value and you matter. That's why. Whether somebody's told you your whole life that you don't count, you do. Because you never know how you could change a life. That miracle on 34th Street, I always reflect back to that. Wonder if we decided that we would never want to be born, how that would affect other people's lives. I think about that. I think about the people that have touched my life and how I'm so grateful. You have that same value.
Mm-hmm.
You have changed somebody's life. You're just not aware of it. And there's power in that. I am so blessed. I have lived through so much, and I can laugh with the best of them, and I can cry with the best of them too. It's just, I'm so grateful to be on this journey, to be here with all of you today. I feel blessed. It's been, like I said, this last year has been really difficult. A month before my father died, I lost my job. You know, like, I never thought, like, once again, am I only just a peer recovery coach at USARA? No, I'm not. I'm all of these other things. Then I get hit by somebody in a stolen car. I could sit in that pity party, but really, I just learned a different way to walk.
Katie knows all about that. She wears like 8 different hats here at the VA.
So
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, and it's also in those moments when you really understand how much strength you have, how you can make it. And I mean, like, I was just sitting there, I just got this brand new, it's not brand new, but I had a Subaru Outback. I've always wanted a Subaru Outback. I had it. It's like, gosh, what else could happen? Well, if I put that out in the universe, that's what's going to come back to me. All I know is that I have an opportunity, right? Today, because we can't do anything about the past. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. All we have is right now, today. So what can you do today for you? Because when you do that, then you're happier, kinder, and you can be there for more people. Because that's what it's about. We're a community. We're all on this earth. We just can make it a better place. We can. I believe in all of you.
I was thinking of the analogy, like every flight I take, you know, the flight attendant will show us how to put on an oxygen mask, but he or she will say, if you're an adult, put on your mask before assisting the children and the needy. I was like, that's a great analogy, right? You got to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
If you're going to take care of other people. And I wasn't raised to think that way.
Right.
Also, part of my religious background was complete altruism and almost neglecting yourself, right? And I had to rethink that, like rethink my own faith, you know, when it comes to these issues and
There has to
rebalance.
there has to be a happy medium. You can't give and give and give and not give to yourself. I forget that too. My mother is a perfect example. She will work herself to death. At 88, she still mows her own lawn. You know,
Nice.
she will go and do and be. And it's like, Mom, take a break. Put your feet up. It's okay. There's not anybody looking over your shoulder going like, oh my gosh, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Well, you just better get on it, Missy. I see, I'm watching you. You better do it. Right? We all have that little person on our shoulder. We need another little person that says, it's okay, take a break. take a deep breath, you know?
And one last thing too, I was thinking at the end of National Black History Month, I often complain, and part of my job as in DEI is to look at problems in society, look at what we still need to work on and think of legislation that could happen. But when I was done with National Black History Month, we had so many different events. I looked back, I was like, we really have come a long way. There's a long way to go, but I was shocked by looking at how far we have come. Like we interviewed that state trooper who was the first Black state trooper in Louisiana. He's an 85-year-old man sharing stories that I'm like, I would never have survived emotionally what this poor man went through, right? And same with Women's History Month. Now that we're at the end, we've heard these stories. Like Lily Ledbetter, she gave a talk on equal pay. I don't want to take these things for granted. Your influence now, like this couldn't have been possible in the past, right? And I think you are just inspiring so many other women and women veterans to get out there and pay it forward, which we put in the title, right? Pay it forward, which is exactly what you're doing. I think it seems like you're finding joy in that.
Yeah.
Like you said, you learn also by teaching.
Absolutely. And part of that is just being okay in the moment, whatever it is. And like tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen. If we just stay present, then we can be aware that those good things can happen. Like this has been joyous for me. I was like nervous and let me tell you what, it's been a long time since I've spoken in like a forum like this. And I struggled at the beginning because it's like, I didn't want to be too much, I could go to some really dark places, but is that what I wanted to focus on? No, I just wanted you to know that whatever struggles you've had, you can overcome them. If I can work hand in hand with the Social Research Institute of the University of Utah, and they listened to what I had to say, that I just was going like, she's talking to me. I can do that. I did that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. This isn't just the last for me. This is just a new beginning for me. I've learned a new way to walk. What can you do today? What can you do for yourself today? That's my challenge for you guys today. What can you do for yourself to find joy, peace, love, and understanding?
Beautiful. Katie, I didn't know if you saw any question. Does anybody want to come off mute and share a comment or a question? Maybe to come off, get your camera on a second so Blue can meet you.
And there are a lot of really wonderful comments in the chat box. No questions so far, but just a lot of really positive comments have come through.
Thank you. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Sloan. Thank you, Twyla. She had a job interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there are tons more if we scroll up.
Yeah.
There are so many.
I know. And I want you guys to know that I'm working on a book, and hopefully I'll get a publisher, but it's you'll be able to find out a lot more about my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
You touched on that a little bit earlier, and I was hoping that you would add to that. I was actually just going to ask, what's next for you?
That's well, so part of what I've been working on is something that, well, there's like three things. I've got a lot of things. So one of the things that I really want to do is I want more support for our LGBTQ plus folks in Salt Lake in Utah. With the Pride Center, I've had some personal experience. I'm an ally of the LGBTQ plus community, excuse me. I also, I'm working on, it's called Demolition Mission. And I don't know, I'm from a small town and the desert. I've, roamed the desert when I was a kid. I don't know if any of you guys have ever smashed anything, but for me, it was a real cathartic experience. And, people are afraid to break something because like you hand somebody something, go, no, I can't break that. That's my da-da-da-da-da, right? So my thought is that people are very angry right now. And what better way is to create a space, to put a name or a face to that anger, whatever it is, and just demolish it.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is a program to help people learn jobs, people who are coming out of prison, people that are homeless. So, like Winco is an employee owned, right? So you teach people there need to be somebody to set up, tear down, marketing, accounting. I want a nonprofit and I want a for-profit. And, the for-profit can be for the corporations to do their weekend, whatever. But the other one would be to, create a foundation, an understanding of, because I didn't know really how to work or what a work ethic was in a real tangible way. And so, and then to expand that into housing, tiny homes or maybe storage containers, whatever works. And, I've been working on this for a while, but put a pin in that. I worked with the Department of Corrections for forensic peer support, which is people that have been successful coming out of prison, going back in and helping other inmates, other people transition out. And that was a definite highlight on March, I think it was March 7th, I sat down and I'm across the street from the place that I was housed. And I'm sitting across the table from a lieutenant, from correctional officers. And here's the funny thing. It was an hour and a half and every question they had, I had an answer for. And at the very end, I'm sitting and there's two other women that had come from different organizations and we're getting ready to walk out the door. And the lieutenant came up to me and he kept getting closer to me and closer to me. And I kept on going like, this is what, because here's the thing, when you're in prison, you do not touch an officer. That is not something that you do. There's no personal, they can like handcuff you or whatever, but and he hugged me. He hugged me. And I'm going, this is happening. We're hugging. And I'm going like, that was like so beautiful. Like those are those things that I carry with me, right? Yeah. Those are the things that changed my life in a real way. And so now they're taking it, they're doing it. So something that I was exposed to, like when I very first started my job at USAR Substance Abuse Conference in St. George, I went and I wanted to go to this workshop and it was filled. And I ended up going to this atrium and I ended up going in and there were 4 other people and it was all about forensic peer support. And so right where I needed to be is where I was. And that's when oh my God, like this is amazing, peers, because we speak the same language, because we had the same experience. And I know that you experienced that in the military. Yeah. We're like-minded, right? And so I even coached somebody who had been in and out of prison 30 years. 30 years he had been in and out of prison. And he has been successful, a job. He got himself a car. He has his own apartment. Those are the things. That is what makes it worthwhile, right? And so my book is called The Daughter of the Big O, because my dad, his nickname on the street was the Big O. So that's the title of my book. And yeah, whatever, think it, believe it, and be it. That's what I say.
A lot of what you just shared too reminded me, Brene Brown, we had talked about her when we first met, where she talks about addiction is the result of lack of connection. Right. Like, how do you feel about that comment? I loved it, but I'd love to hear your take on it. So
like Brene Brown has been a huge, powerful influence. When I did a shame course in prison, and I definitely got both my kids to watch Call to Courage, and we've watched it more than once. So the opposite of addiction is a connection, right? So being connected. So there's this idea that, you're outlaw or, you're a criminal and all those things. And it's like, so you can never be connected. You can never go to your county council, your city council, even voting is so far off thought or idea. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Nothing ever changes. Well, that's not true. You have power in your voice. So being connected, knowing that it can be, that's why we need to have more understanding, more common ground, because you never know when your life could be spiraling out of control and you make that mistake, right? I mean, I truly, like Johann Hari is somebody you should watch. Everything You Know About Addiction Is Wrong. Brene Brown, Power of Vulnerability and A Call to Courage. It's like, I have resilience. I have courage to step into the uncomfortable. And I know every single one of you have been able to do that too. It's also recognizing those moments and not downplaying them. what sense of accomplishment? I had to recognize that I have accomplishments all the time. I just have to recognize them and make myself aware of them. So I don't feel like everything I did was for naught, or nothing that I did was ever good enough. That's another thing that we tell ourselves that isn't true. Knowing that you've done something right and saying like, I did that.
Yeah.
And then being connected to somebody else and saying, like, you did that. That's powerful. You know, that in itself right there can break down so many walls, you know, even seeing somebody that looks good in their, I love your necklace, Katie. It's beautiful. You are beautiful, you know, just being able to say that, letting go of that. Oh, look at her. She shouldn't wear those pants. Can you believe her hair? Those things.
So they're asking for the books and authors. So it's Brene
Brown.
Brown.
The Gift of Imperfections is the first one I'd start with.
Okay.
Imperfections.
Okay.
So Johan Hari, he has a YouTube.
How you spell that?
It's JOHAN
Okay.
ARI.
Okay.
HARI, sorry.
HARI?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Johan Hari. Everything you know about addiction is wrong.
Everything you know about addiction is wrong?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And you mentioned a couple of books that you need to put that names as well.
And then I would also point your attention to a little earlier in the chat, someone asked if you would be willing and able to share the websites and recovery program names in the
Absolutely.
chat.
I can do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll add it.
At the end?
If you want, we can add it to the end because everybody will have access to it
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
One thing too that really stood out, and the first time I interviewed you, I know we're running out of time, but I was just going to mention really quickly because you mentioned being kind to each other, right? But one thing that really stood out was your approach to addiction treatment is also kindness to yourself, the non-judgmental element of when you're analyzing the whys of your behavior, you're discovering the subconscious beliefs, you're kind to yourself. You're looking at it like an observer. And I was thinking how much kinder we tend to be towards others who are suffering than we are to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I remember that really stood out to me, like, wow, you are really changing the paradigm here of no judgment.
Right.
Look at yourself as like I remember this old minister said to me one time, he says, we tend to think of saints and sinners. And as long as we call ourselves sinners, we behave as such. And as long as we call ourselves saints, we tend to behave as such. And it resonated a lot with what you said.
So I think that a huge part of it is letting go of your ego. Because your ego is that other little thing that sits on your shoulder and says,
yeah,
you know, and it's really amazing to me is that it's that human, we're just human. We're human. And so the reason why 12-step didn't work for me is because I didn't want to sit and just say it over and over again. Hi, my name is Bluesette. I'm an addict. Hi, I could say that for like, I'm an overeater, I'm a felon, I'm a criminal, and I could define myself by those terms. I want everybody to know that it's possible, that recovery is possible, that medically assisted recovery is possible. It's like what you can do to live your best life.
Yeah.
Recovery isn't cookie cutter.
That's why Sarah has 12-step, SMART, has everything. What works for you? And I noticed some people are actually doing multiple.
Absolutely.
Some people I interviewed said they were doing 12-step and SMART at the same time, or doing Dharma recovery and 12-step at the same time.
The level of support is huge. It's just, it's leaning into that, right? Being fearful of meeting new people or being judged. Or I had a woman that I coached that is still active. And she was so terrified of being listed in, because as far as federally funded, we had to, identify those people as individuals. And she didn't want that to happen. And so I honored that. And I got an opportunity to like coach her on this level that it's not about what my organization needs or what, it's just like two people coming together and helping each other, because what she shared with me helped me as well. It's like leaving that space, opening that space to create a conversation. And that starts with yourself too, because how much do we talk to ourselves? All day long, every day long. Oh, another thing I wanted to share. Emoto Misuro, he's a Japanese philosopher, and he did an experiment with water.
This was amazing.
So this was a foundation of what changed me and how I talk to myself. So he took water and had Buddhist priests pray over polluted, toxic water, and there's the pristine water, and the Buddhists chanted over the toxic water, and the pure water somebody spoke negatively to, and so then he flash froze it and spliced it. And he took it to the next level on several different ways. So just taking regular tap water and putting on the front of the container that holds it, I love you, you're beautiful. I hate you, I want to kill you. And it's amazing. So if you pull them up, there's several different pictures of at the cellular level, how distorted and just it's like a blob that you can see in the water cells. And then the ones that had been chanted over or been spoken to, you know, like with love and kindness, was pristine, like
symmetrical.
like symmetrical, like sacred geometry, like a snowflake.
Yeah, it looked like a snowflake.
It looked
Actually,
like
when I
a
saw the
snowflake.
pictures.
And it's like it's so amazing. So we're 70% water. Imagine all the things we tell ourselves every day that just create that distorted blob.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do to ourselves. Like I said, like I keep saying, it starts with you. Kindness and compassion to yourself. The Gift of Imperfections, you know, when you tell somebody, you know, you should really read that book. My son actually picked up that book and read it, and it helped change his life.
Nice.
And that's where it starts too, right? I can help a million people, but it's also about helping in my own family, being more kind and compassionate in my own family, being a better listener, slowing down my judgments and like embracing it, right? Like I'm so lucky. If I was thinking about the negative things, I could like say all kinds of stuff. But what did that get me?
Right.
It doesn't give me any joy. There's no laughter in that. And understanding myself better means I'm a better person.
Well, we are out of time, but Blue, we are so thankful you could be here today on this last day of Women's History Month. And I want to give the last word to Katie, since she's the manager for the Women's Federal Program, for any closing thoughts.
I really just wanted to thank you so much for being so honest and open and vulnerable with us. To go back to that word, vulnerable, it's just been really wonderful to listen to you today, and I'm just really grateful that you were here. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you all for being here too. It's been a while since I've spoken. I know I just struggled for a minute, but I came through.
I'll tell you, I didn't hear a struggle at all. You were very well spoken. So
Yeah.
it was just really wonderful to listen to.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much.
Well, we're going to go to the Cheesecake Factory. So before we do, though, after the session ends, Blue will show me the links, and I'll put those in the chat so people can access those links. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great end of the day.